This is Mustache on Music, and from Finger 11, we have
Rick Jacket. How you doing?
I'm doing good. That is a mighty, magnificent beer.
Oh yeah, it's pretty something, I'd say. I wish I could take credit for it, but it literally just grows out of my face. You know, like if there's a magic elixir that helps it grow, it's probably whiskey, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys are currently on tour.
Yeah.
Tour is called The Fall of Hammer.
The Fall of the Hammer. Yeah.
Fall of the Hammer. Is there a specific meaning behind that?
Well, yeah. For this run, we've been picking local bands to open up for each show. You know what I mean? So we've been picking bands from. So what they've been doing, it's been a contest, and they go online and they get voted in as the finalists, and then we've been sort of picking the winners.
Oh, okay.
So the Fall of the Hammer is sort of a play on like the making the judgment. You know,
yes.
Right? So.
That's a good way to support local Canadian artists.
Yeah, it's worked out really great. It's good for them. You know, that gives them maybe a bigger exposure in their town. You know, a different kind of show that they've maybe never played before. But for us, it's been really cool because we get to sort of like peek into all the different little just all the different little scenes around the country. It's amazing how diverse they are from city to city, and it's pretty awesome how inspiring the young bands are. So.
And you guys sort of got your break from like a contest.
Yeah.
So you're sort of doing the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of exactly. It's a really fun way to sort of expose new music to people. You know what I mean? Because every time when we got sick of coming through towns and like the opening band would be like it would be like a favor to like someone, you know, and they didn't necessarily like deserve to be there all the time, or a lot of times it'd be like a cover band versus like we like original music doing. So this was a way for us to sort of control that and sort of bring people that deserve to be there a bit more.
Do you think that Canada as a whole, like the music industry, is doing enough for like local artists?
I mean, it's yes, in a sense. Like I do believe that Canada is a very supportive music scene. You know, I mean, just from stuff like Factor and like like all that money that the government sort of subsidizes. I mean, I think they can do more. I'm a musician. Like I'm a musician, I'd probably move all the money into the arts. You know what I mean? But I think as far as on a global scale, they do. I think Canada's pretty good for that.
Right. With this album that you released, what has been the approach that okay, let's start this over.
Yeah.
How have you changed the approach of an album since your first album that you released to this one?
Yeah, I think it's a constant evolving process. You know, you obviously learn tricks from each record and they apply to the next one. But this one in particular, we really put the focus on the writing, and so the record took us 3.5 years from beginning writing to ending recording. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
But the recording was literally the last 17 days of those 3.5 years. You know what I mean? Like, so we spend the majority of time writing and rewriting and going back to the drawing board and sort of just pushing ourselves and sort of trying to re-raise our own personal bar when it comes to the songwriting. And once we felt like we had that collection of songs, we headed to Nashville and we did the record with a guy named Dave Cobb, who's a phenomenal producer. He just recently won the Country Music Awards Album of the Year with Chris Stapleton. Like he produces that band. That guy. He's predominantly a country producer, but he also does Rival Sons. He knows his rock. So we sort of just met and he was like, man, come down next Thursday, and we literally went down there and we just powered through everything. And he was really spontaneous, inspiring guy to work with. So that was something totally different for us on this record. Before this record, I don't think we made a record in less than like 6 weeks. And this literally took 2 weeks to record and mix the whole thing, you know. So that was a really cool way of doing it. I think it allowed us to sort of stay on our toes, and then it just sort of allowed us to, I don't know, like stay spontaneous. And he was very good at keeping us like without overthinking the process and going back and fixing all the wrongs and sort of leaving some of the rawness and the realness in the recording.
So you get that feel of a show, like you got the concert.
Yeah, I think so. The closest we've ever come to it, and I think our live show is a real strong point of the band that maybe has yet to translate to the album, and this is definitely the most raw and closest we've gotten. So,
how was it recorded? Was it sort of each element was recorded on its own, or was it?
It was sort of all like, the drums were very live, you know, and we record with him, play with Chris when he drummed on his parts. But then a lot of times the guitars are done together. Like we'll be, you know, like, we'll do it like that. So there were moments where it was fragmented, and then there was moments where it was very live and very like. But the neatest thing was we'd have a part and Dave would be like, lay it down, and you'd lay it down, and then you'd think, oh, that was just the rehearsal, you know, and then he would actually like that's it. Like he would be like, all right, get out of the seat, next guy, you know. And you're like, what? I only played it once, and it's like, he's like, it sounds great, leave it, you know. And that kind of him staying honest and sort of pushing us out of the way and getting the next guy in, that kind of a mentality really was a fun way to work, you know.
Okay. And there was a little bit of a lineup change with you guys now with the new drummer.
Yeah.
How was that? Has that at all changed the?
Oh yeah,
the band's
I mean,
sound?
definitely when we parted ways with the old drummer, the writing, I don't even know how to explain it. Just the valves opened and the lines of communication just started to flow, and we did a lot of writing in that period when we actually didn't have a drummer. You know, we were just really focusing on the songs and the melodies and the chord, like the music, and not worrying. And so when we had these songs, we went down to Nashville with them, and this guy Chris Powell, who drummed on the record, we had never even met him before. We sat down and that again was a neat thing. Like we didn't have time to like overthink it. He just like we learned the songs, and by the third take, I mean, he's so amazing. But he'd have this like vision for it, and a lot of times it was better vision than what we were envisioning. So we had riffs that had been around for a year or two, and he made them feel like brand new again with the rhythms he put underneath it, you know. So it definitely made a difference for sure.
That's awesome when you can get excited about your own music.
Exactly, and especially when the songwriting process took so long. Some of the songs in our world had already existed for a couple of years, you know. So to get those songs have a new life, to get to that level was exciting.
Was there ever a point, because that is such a long time, where it was just like, oh, we're doing this again sort of feeling?
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the writing process, there was that weird middle. Regardless if you write for 2 weeks or 2 years, there is that middle ground where you're sort of lost, and that's the hardest place to get out of. You know what I mean? You do lose focus, and I think that's important personally to sort of to change. You know, because when you lose that focus, you find a new focus, and it's not always the same one that you just lost. And I think that's an important part of the process. But it definitely is that there is that weird like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And I think that's part of being creative, I guess.
Yeah. And if you could describe the sound of this album as a mustache, what mustache would the sound be?
Oh, probably like the mustache of the dude that listens to Judas Priest in the 80s. Like, you know what I mean? Like that guy's mustache. Yeah. Like, you know, probably smells a little bit like weed and like a little bit like beer.
A fun mustache.
Yeah. A skid mustache. Yeah. I don't know that, like the one lip thing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you.
Absolutely.
For taking your time out.
For sure.
This was Mustache on Music. I'm Finger 11.